Hello, everyone. Well, glad y'all are joining me again today on this new video or on the continuance of this journey that I'm on. It isn't necessarily a journey that I'm still on. It's more like the results I'm offering to y'all. To be honest with you, I've kind of stumbled upon something. I kind of felt that I needed to share with the world, and this is my way of helping out. I guess you kind of say. I remember one time I met this old fellow. He was an old fellow, and it's the only time I ever met him, and it's the only one time I ever actually seen him. And I remember one time he was talking to me about the isness of all things, and he was saying that how he sat with a Buddhist master, and this guy started talking to him about how there was an isness in all things. Like there was an isness in the table, there was an isness in this sofa that I was sitting in, or sitting on. And I didn't understand fully then, because he just jumped into something called sound of the one hand clap. And I was like, sound of the one hand clap. That sounds interesting. Sounds pretty powerful. And it actually pretty much is. But this video I would like to get into what I've come to call the isness in it. Now you see, when we look at the concept of meaningless, if you feel a bad feeling, like for example, if someone says that's meaningless, and that makes you feel bad, then yeah, maybe you should feel bad, because what they just did was break everything that you thought was meaningful. But if they say within that is meaningless, or just that itself is meaningless, like, then I mean, all of these vines behind me, you know what I mean, they're pretty much meaningless. But notice how I called them vines. That's a name we gave to it, you know what I mean, to help us understand these vines on the wall, that's what we gave it, right? Much like a tree. We would have been calling them all trees. They're all trees, right? But that one over there blooms apples, and the other one over there blooms pears, right? So that one's a pear tree, and that one's an apple tree. And that helps us differentiate, much like how in our own race, it helps us differentiate where we come from. We believe the more darker colored skin to be be originating from Africa, and more whiter complected skin actually. Think they raise. I don't even know, to be honest with you. I don't even know where they think they come from, to be honest. But a lot of people know where they originate from, and Mexicans, they say, Americans originate from America, of course, and Europeans originate from Europe. But that's just to help us differentiate between it all, and that's what we use our time with to help segregate, or to help us understand or come to know the world around us. All this is fine. It's supposed to be what we're supposed to do. I mean, with a mind like this, I mean, all of us, including not just me. I mean, you have to understand, like, we're gonna be in search of this knowledge, like, 100% all the time, especially for our own growth, even if it's in the smallest of ways. It could be even barbaric or just stupid to some other people, but in their sense, it'll work out. In their sense, it makes total sense to eat your cereal with a fork before drinking, instead of eating with a spoon, because they want to get the cereal, not the milk, and because they'd rather drink the whole milk at the end. Whereas the other person would rather have been eating with a spoon to have milk along with the cereal. Uh, Mad world, right? But that's how it works. There's a little bit of everything. It's the humanity in it all. Well, at least in the aspect of all of this right here. But when someone states that that is meaningless, it doesn't necessarily mean you're supposed to feel a bad feeling, or you're supposed to even feel a good feeling. You're not even supposed to think a good thought or a bad thought, because it's meaningless. There's no reason to be sad, mad, or pondering about a thought, or making it more difficult than you should, right? So, with all that being said, you see all these vines around me? That tree up there? The isness in all of this is what we really are, what this is, without you even calling it anything. Because you see, all of this stuff that's behind me is gonna be here. And if you think that, or believe that this stuff is gonna die when you go, or it's gonna disappear when you die, or it's gonna disappear when you go, then I think that's very sad and not fair to yourself, because in a way that kind of makes you feel like you need all of this to go with you to feel like you're together with someone, or together with something. Not someone in particular, something. And that's not right, because you should feel loved during this life. You should feel loved by someone, or even by life itself. You should feel that you should feel enjoyment when the very wind blows against your face on a very hot day, and it's a very fresh breeze instead of a hot breeze. That should be a good smile. you know and it just isn't fair for you to think that all of this is gonna go, because not even you know where this came from. I don't know. A lot of people are still trying to explain it, but we don't know exactly where it came from. We just know one thing: we were born and we're here to live. And the one thing's for certain: once your time is up, is you die. But the concept of death itself is something on its own level. That's something we can talk about on another video. But like, that's on its own level. And all these things that I'm describing to you are all natural isness of everything that's happening around us. There's an isness in all of this. And the isness is the part where, for example, if you go to work every day, the natural isness is in you. If you're going to work working as a carpenter or working as an electrician, but you're a musician or an artist, like, you paint stuff, then you're not fulfilling the true isness of your nature, when your nature is to draw and paint. If you must work as a construction worker, but your true nature is a musician, don't forget, you can still enjoy a few little things or moments in your life where you get to draw something amazing, you know what I mean? So like, don't forget that. Law of free will, help us out with that. And we get to make those choices. But the natural isness is that part in you that is the artist, rather than you going to work as a construction worker. Although you must work as the construction worker, don't forget about the artist inside of you that also needs to be sustained. That's the isness within you. Much like the table's isness is that we made the table to be able to stand like that, and to hold our drinks and a bunch of nice beautiful pictures and stuff, and that's what the table does. That is a natural isness, because that is the purpose we gave to it. Now you see, I also had a good discussion with a buddy, and he said, when I spoke to him about the computer, and I told him, in this computer, it's a form of life. I mean, inanimate or inanimate, it's a form of life. There's life in this right now. And he goes, no, it's pretty inanimate. I'm like, okay, you know what? He's right. He's right. It's pretty inanimate, just much like this bench I'm sitting on. Pretty inanimate, But like, wouldn't that be too? All that stuff. If this is just as still as that, and all of that is just is, and I'm just here, sitting in it, and especially those windows, everything over there, you see all that? All this just is then, right? All of it, just, see what I mean? Now we're just confused. We're just like, man, we just went from here to there, and so quickly. What does he mean? Let me show you. In the natural isness of this all, if you are a musician, but yet you're working as a construction worker, don't forget to take care of the part that makes you happy, where you should draw something every now and then, but make the time for it. So that way you don't lose your humanity to the part that just feels like a slave to the system. Because the system is something that was created to make things, and that's a natural isness that came about. Much like how wind that you see moving around here, the earth that is growing, the water that is inside these plants that are help keeping it alive, help keeping all this alive. And there's also the water in here, the fire, that's the light around us. There's a lot happening around here right now. And all that is a natural isness. Fire burns, that's its isness. Earth grows, that's its isness. And you can even get more and more and more and more and more in depth of all of this, to be honest with you. And you will always find a deeper isness, a deeper purpose, a deeper reason to why it exists and how it works and what makes it work. There is always going to be something to find, no matter what, because that is called discovery. And before you even have discovery, there is wonder. If there is wonder, there is hope and joy and realization. All these things come into retrospect, and you're just creating all of this, and that is going to be the willpower that you are using to create these things. And all that is going to be the isness that you are using, or the naturality that makes you feel good while you're doing these things. Because simply just taking the time to draw something when you're a natural artist, and while you're working as a construction worker, will keep the natural isness that is you happy and sustained, so that way, you can go being a construction worker and not have to feel pretty hard to wake up in the morning, or feel or have a difficult morning to wake up to go to work, you know. But when someone tells you that, but let's just say that after all this strife, right? And I just told you right about right now. After all this strife that we just said right now, what if one day you go home, your husband, your wife, just all of a sudden just says one thing that makes you feel like shit? All the work, all the effort, you forget to draw that night. You forget to finish it, and it's already going on 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 months, right? You forget to finish it, and you forget to finish it. What happens then? Get back in routine and you start doing the same thing that you were doing before. What happens then? It all becomes meaningless, right? All your efforts, your wife, your husband, your spouse, or something just happened that made everything that you were working for just completely meaningless. A meaning, a name you were going by, that you were living for, that you built by, that you did something sacred you built, just got crushed down because someone said it was meaningless and proved to you it was meaningless. I would say, or ask you, any one of y'all, why are you sad? Meaningless is not such a bad thing. I mean, all this is meaningless, including this right here. My name's Sky, though, and I know the meaning to that, and I know the meaning to me, my purpose, and what I'm supposed to do, so I know how I'm supposed to feel. And I know I'm supposed to be happy even when I'm sad, because, although I know what meaningless is, I myself am not meaningless. Although I know that by naturality I am pretty meaningless because I'm a speck of dust within this grand cosmos. You know what I mean? But still, are you meaningless? Because if you know what meaningless is, you shouldn't feel bad about that. You shouldn't feel sad or angry or even think a thought, because meaningless has no meaning. It just is there. In The Last Jedi, I was talking to my brother about this. In The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker was showing Rey how to feel the Force. And when she showed peace, she said the word peace. When he asked her what she was seeing, and she was just saying a lot of words, she said the word peace. And when she said peace, it showed like one of the little inhabitants, the little bird inhabitants on a cliff with its babies, and it was overlooking the sea, on a cliff, and peace, like the little family was at peace. But then when she said violence, violence looked like waves hitting against the shore. But you see, there was like these spiked rock edges. You know what I mean? They were like spikes, and they looked like long spikes. And if you know physics, you'll know that took time to make through natural erosion, with the water consistently or continuously always hitting the edge of the cliff. You know that was how that came to be. So violence in the way it looks, you see what I mean? That was violence. The clashing of that creating, or the clashing of the sea hitting that, like fire wind, fire mixing with wind and it going in a fire tornado, or a tornado made of fire wind, you know what I mean? Violence. All natural isness, all things coming together to make new things. Life forms of products, or products of life. So that would be what humanity is as well. It's just a natural product of life, which is what we're trying to explain in the second video. But you see, with all that wonder we just finished creating, see all that meaning we keep bringing up, there's so much already that's there, that when you're trying to make meaning from it, or create meaning, all you're thinking or trying to place upon it is what it is you think it should be. It's a very innocent nature we have as human beings, since we're very capable in the mind. We're still learning and adapting. Yet, the natural isness in it is something a bit more interesting. Let me show you. You know what they say when it comes down to trees, right? Well, here's a big ass tree right here. See that tree right there? That tree right there in itself, meaningless, but not in a bad way. Remember that. We're not supposed to even think a bad thought about that word, because it's meaningless. But you see that tree right there? That tree right there. Take away the name tree, and all the meaning flows away with it, right? but take away just the meaning of tree, and tree just is. So when we look at a tree, and we see this tree right here, all that meaning comes back, and we know that tree. Plus, we also know that this tree right here happens to be a specific kind of tree. I don't know what name that tree is back there. I don't know what specific one that is, or even the one over there. You go, that guy over there. I don't even know what that guy is too. But I know that if it has an apple, it's an apple tree, and if it has an orange, it's an orange tree, and that was a pear tree, right, guys? But this tree right here, take away all those little segregative words or self-definitions to differentiate all the trees, much like the way we differentiate our human race. And you will find that all one word is tree, much like the word human. For all of us is one word, human, because that's what we are, Homo sapiens. And yet, with all that meaning comes behind that one word, right? So if you take away the word from that, it still is. Because even when I go like this, and I'm showing you the world around me over here, I can still go like this, and it still is. Because if you die, or if I go, that will still be here. I don't know if it was there before me. That tree is probably older than I am. Some trees have been around for 200 years. 200, and who's to know whether that tree will be here another 200 years? Who knows if there was a tree that was 200 years before the first sprouting of the first Homo sapien? Understand? Who knows? That is okay for us not to know. Science is always trying to figure this out, and they've done a marvelous job. Religion has helped us sustain ourselves. Politics has helped keep order. All these functions are all naturalities of the human race creating functions to help understand and live accordance to its nature alongside nature itself. This is just us growing. There's nothing wrong in what we're doing. It's just a natural order that has to happen. And as much as we think we should be fighting each other, we should be embracing that, although Donald Trump is what he is, we should be embracing that that's part of who we are. And if we want to make better choices, then we should come together to make better choices, not rely on one person to do so for us. Even if it takes like an entire fucking year to make one decision, we should probably do that. It's probably already being done now, but I mean like in a mass crowd voice. But that's another thing for another day. See how now there's more something we're talking about? But yet, even then, it still is there. And that is the isness in it. Because no matter what you do, this guy right here, take away the name of this guy here, and I still am. Jim Carrey's been on this little fanatic world lately, and I have to admit, Jim Carrey's a little cuckoo in the head right now. Because although he's on the right idea, he still hasn't come off his trip. You know what I mean? Like, he's talking about how the self is not we, and I am not I. Like the self is not me, because technically I am not here. Or like, there is no me, there is no I. And I get what he means, we're all connected, we're all together in this one thing, in this grand function of the world. But yet, in order for me to remember myself, I must know thyself so I can differentiate myself from you. Because I would not like to be embodied with you, Jim Carrey, because you're crazy. To my mind, you're crazy. Because I don't want to live the way like that. Because I want to be able to have some credit for myself, knowing that I built myself. Although I was given the right by God, or what atheists would say, something that happened in the world that gave me this conscious being to create myself in the way that I would like to. So, if all this comes to shit, then at least I know for myself that, and y'all know now too, that it was all meaningless and there was nothing that you really had to worry about in the first place. But know that because you lived the way you did, you will either have put yourself in a place you didn't want to be, or you're exactly where you want to be. Because if all this was meaningless in the first place and that tree was always there, and take away the name of that right there, you see that right there? We all know what that is, right? You thought tree, I bet you, right? Thought tree, but yet it still is. And tree, when you take that away, it will be there still. That will be there still. It will stand right there. If I die right here, right now, that will still be right there. Because I don't think if I die, the world's going to follow me. Understand? Because there's a lot of y'all still alive here. And if I'm the only one dreaming, then yeah, the world would come back and it would end with me. But that wouldn't be fair to you all, wouldn't it? If the world would have died because I died. That wouldn't be fair. hanging on the balance of one person. Not even fair to that person too. But yet, if all of this meaning, guys, comes to the end, and that's why there is a natural isness in it all. Because little do you know is at least you were acting according to the nature in which you were brought up to be within the natural realm. And that is all of the order within any paradox, any universe, any platform, any dimension, whatever you want to call it, any heaven, any hell. That's the natural way, and that's how it is. So the natural isness in it, guys, is just the part that it already was before you gave it a name. Before we called that a tree, it was already there. I didn't know that. I still don't even know what that tree is called in specific, but I don't know. I'm gonna call that thing over there, twig. That's twig over there. See that? That's twig. I can call it that. I can even call those, instead of vines, I can call those lizard tails. There you go, lizard tail. You see what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. How you can place meaning by simply just taking or having accepted that there was no meaning there in the first place. Because that was simply there. But we called it a tree because we needed to differentiate that right there from this right here, even this phone, or even all these vines and everything right there. We needed to differentiate all of that so we can have an understanding of the world we're in. So that way we can have a natural or an adaptive learning process in our function as a human race as a whole to be able to live and mainly survive. Because that is the whole key to it, to survive. And that's what we want as a human race, to survive. And that is natural isness in all life, to live. And there is a difference between surviving and living. But that's another topic for another day. As for now, just remember that, everyone. Meaningless ain't such a bad thing. Especially when you understand and know the true meaning of meaningless. Since you have no need to feel a bad or good feeling, or even think a thought at all, or trust in anything when it's meaningless. From there, you can place meaning and feel safe about it. From there, you can go through trial and error and begin to build a life of happiness, or just a simple life of, whoa, you know, darkness, whatever, you name it. At least with that in itself, by coming to see the natural isness and stuff, much like the table that we built to hold our stuff, that is the isness it has, that is the purpose it uses to sustain itself. Much like the natural isness in this shirt is for me to wear it. It's to clothe me. Like the natural isness of this body is to be able to live in this world and to do whatever it takes, because I don't know about y'all, but for me, personally, I want to build my spirit or my essence to a better place. Understand? But that's just me. That can go for anyone. And I guess that's the whole point of this journey. To at least live happy in some way. Sky out.